Hi, I'm Kelly Petrick. I serve K-8 math needs in the Hillsborough School District.
And I'm Sabrina Waning, and I'm a special education teacher at McKinney Elementary.
So Sabrina, as a general education teacher and working with a lot of gen ed teachers across the district, what is really an IEP?
An IEP is an individual education program for students who have been identified for special education.
Okay, so you just explained the acronym.
What does it mean?
But what does it mean for the child? Like, what is the importance behind the IEP, and then how does that impact their experience in the general education classroom?
Definitely, and we like our acronyms, by the way. So it's basically a map for a student's success at school. And it starts with their present levels. That is, how are they doing in the general education? Not only in academics, but also in other areas like behavior or writing or language. And we really look at that and decide, how does a child's disability impact their ability to be successful and access general education instruction?
Okay, so that's input from a lot of different roles.
A lot of different roles and a lot of different data. And from there, a team, which includes the parent, very important, special education teacher, and the classroom teacher, agree on some goals for that student. And finally, there's a plan about exactly how they're going to implement and meet those goals.
So once that's all on paper, and I know that also involves some strengths of the child as well, and not just areas of growth, what, in your experience, how does what's on paper really look like in reality, in practice, and how do you keep that matching the reality?
So that comes down to that really important page at the end, which is the service summary. And that lines out exactly what areas the child's going to receive what we call specially designed instruction. Specially designed instruction means it's tailored specifically for that student. It doesn't have to be the special education teacher, but it often is. There are also areas on that page that help address how the child's going to be successful in class, and that's the accommodations and maybe even modifications, as well as if there's anybody else on that team that may be needed, such as a speech language teacher or an occupational therapist. There's a lot of different players that can be involved based upon that child's specific needs.
That's good. I'm wondering too, like as a general education teacher, what would be your advice in, I guess kind of keeping up on that?
Yeah.
We're going all different kinds of directions. I know you are too. How do you stay in touch with what's on that last page?
They need to look at the accommodations, because they're the ones responsible for those. Those are the things that are adjusted just a little bit to help that child access what's happening in that classroom. It's not changing their instruction, it's the extra things they need to be able to access that instruction, and that's what the general education teacher is responsible for. It can be things like, what happens during the test? Does that child have special accommodations for taking a test? What about transitions? A lot of children struggle with those. Are there special things that we need to do to help that child move from one task to another?
Yeah.
Most important page for the teacher.
So if I don't know what something might mean on that last page or what it looks like in practice, what do I do next?
Well, come and find your special education teacher.
Hunt you down.
They're
Run
happy
after
to go
you.
over with it. And we always talk about it at the meeting, but so many things are covered during that meeting and agreed upon during that meeting that it's easy for the teacher to forget. However, the teacher should always have a copy of that IEP. Bring it, find your special education teacher and say, walk me through that accommodation again. Tell me what I need to do.
So the same is probably true if I don't see an accommodation in practice or happening, like the lack thereof, or I feel like there needs to be an added accommodation.
Yep.
Do I need to bring evidence to justify that accommodation to be added?
Absolutely. That goes back to that very first page where we write down everything we noticed about how that child's doing academically and functionally in a classroom.
Okay.
And the teacher's voice is just as important as the parents.
Right.
It is a team decision. We all agree upon what that child
So it could
needs.
come from the parents, but it also could come from the teacher.
Absolutely.
Or the role. Okay. So I'm thinking about the actual IEP goal. And a lot of questions around, do special education teachers need to write the IEP goal or goals around the Common Core? It needs to be connected to the Common Core. Can you speak a little bit more clearly about that? I think there's some confusion around that.
Yeah, definitely. They should be connected to the Common Core.
At that grade level?
Well, that depends on that student's academic or functional level. It starts at the grade level, but if that child is not functioning or working at that grade level, the team needs to unpack through all that data that they collect, from student work to state testing. What does that child need to be successful in that goal?
Okay.
So they may need to look at that goal and go back a few academic steps to figure out what prerequisite skills are missing and what additional areas need to be instructed for them to be successful.
Okay, so that's good, because my wheels are already turning here. So if one of the IEP goals is to access more of the grade level Common Core standard or standards, then those accommodations and modifications are probably served during that core content time.
Those are always going to be in core content
All of
time.
even if the goal is previous Common Core standards or at before grade level, it's
always
still served.
need to be happening during that time.
Okay.
And that's where we can think about who is providing that specially designed instruction.
Okay.
There's a lot of different people that are capable of meeting that student's needs. If the child is very close to grade level, then their instruction may look like or be similar to what is happening in the classroom, but there's got to be something different about it in order for it to be specially designed instruction.
Okay.
So it can be what's being taught, but also how it's being taught. A child may need to have more repetition. They need to have more direct modeling. They may need more time sitting with conceptual models before they can move on. There's got to be something slightly different for that child, even though they're close to grade level.
Okay. That's good, because I know something that we've been really trying to have some conversations around in Hillsborough is around like different response to need, right? So you mentioned repetition, same and more.
Yep.
Then others reteach, like how can we see it differently?
Yes.
So, than our previous, ways that we've been presented the information.
Yes.
And then intervention is different.
Yes.
But very intense and focused with a duration. And then of course we could also enrich.
Yes.
And having those conversations, so I know we've had those conversations, and there's other ways to respond to need, but the time of the day, is that driven by the IEP and the team's decision, or is that like, here's what the student needs in this way? Now, your general education teacher and special and case manager, you guys have to figure out how to make it happen in the time of day, or is that scripted in the IEP?
It always starts with the student's needs first, and the IEP is a plan and a map to figure out how to meet that need.
Okay.
So I guess it's all the above.
So all of the above. Okay. So you can make the IEP as specific as possible.
True.
I mean, I know there's certain things that you have to fulfill on the IEP in order to like finish the document, but really it's up to the team to be able to be as precise and thorough as they need to be for that child to meet the child's need.
Absolutely, and it starts from that impact. We need to be clear on how is that disability impacting a student's ability to access that general education.
Yes.
So the clearer we are on what's the impact and why learning is hard, the better we can determine some goals and that plan on how we're going to reach those goals.
So during that planning and the mapping, it is also part of the conversation, like how are we going to assess that? How are we going to know if that's working or not, and how often? And is that up to you as the case manager, or is that
a team decision?
Okay.
And that is specifically laid out on the goal page.
Okay.
How we're going to measure that goal, how we're going to know it's successful, and how frequently we're going to take data to make sure we're progressing towards that goal.
And that could be beyond just SBAC.
It is always beyond just SBAC.
Awesome. Well, thanks for chatting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks to Dutch Bros.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.